Here I am back again in my little corner in the basement where I do work when it gets cold out. And if you remember back last January, I started to clean up the cylinders for my Cat 60 cylinders and heads and carburetor and vacuum tank for the fuel. And took the cylinders and heads to the machine shop. And I finally got those back, actually a couple months ago already, a few months ago. But I was just so busy this fall. But now that the cold has set in, I'm going to get back at it. You know how it is sometimes you have a project that gets sidelined and then it's kind of hard to get back at it. I mean, after 50 years of waiting on this thing, you'd think I'd get back at it real easy, but that's just the way it goes. So I'm going to pick up where I left off. If any of you remember, this is the cover that closes the back of the crankcase. I got to put that on next, and then I'll start putting cylinders on. So make a gasket for it, and I go to my favorite gasket making material, paper bags. They've treated me well this many years. They'll work just as well for this. There. All the holes. There we have one gasket. And now for something a little more exciting. Looking at the cylinders and pistons and rings. Now, you see it has one oil control ring at the bottom and 4 compression rings. And I saved all the oil control rings. I'm going to be using the used compression rings on the bottom two, and I got new compression rings for the top two because I had to break some to get them out. And boy, there's the pretty sight. Reboard cylinders. This one you can see a few little rust pits in it. That was the number 1 cylinder, which I didn't have to replace. He just honed it out to clean it up, but it's in really nice shape. And the other ones have all completely fresh bores in them. So let's see what kind of a ring end gap we have. First we're going to try one of the oil rings. So there you can see the end gap on the oil ring. It's a little big, but not overly excessive. As I say, this crawler I could tell was put together from parts from different ones, and there were no ridges in the top of the cylinders at all, so I'm guessing it never was ran a lot after it was put together the last time, and at that time probably new rings, because that end gap is very well acceptable for a bore this big. Now I'm going to try one of the used compression rings. And here you can see that ring end gap is very acceptable. Like, that ring has no wear at all to speak of. So I'm sure there isn't going to be any problem reusing those rings. And now I'm going to try one of the new rings. On these new rings you can see they have an overlap that they call a gapless ring. So I should really have good ring sealing. And we'll put this in and see what kind of an end gap we got on that one. So here you can see we have virtually no end gap to speak of. So I'll have to file some end gap there, because one thing for certain, you're better off to have too much end gap than not enough, because if the ends hit, you'll break them. And you can see how the ends overlap to make what they call, I believe, a gapless ring. So I should have plenty of good ring sealing on this. So thanks for watching. I just thought I'd get out a little bit of video that I'm starting progress on the 60 again. So hopefully every few days, or at least once a week, I'll get you a little more progress on it. See you the next time.